This is the future.
Before we start this video, I would like to just give you a heads up in case you missed the official announcement. Duviri Paradox is slated for release April 26th, that's 12 days away from now, and the trailer did showcase some pretty interesting stuff about the upcoming update that I am now excited. I'm pretty curious about Dominus Thrax right now, and the power that he holds and could possibly be bestowed on us. I just don't know, but I have this weird intuition that somehow in the end, we could possibly see Dominus helping us players defeat the biggest enemy of the tenor, which is the man in the wall. I don't know where the story would lead us, but it sure is exciting now. The only thing that I don't like about the upcoming update is the build-up and the way Digital Extremes delayed the update for years now. I just hope they stop doing this thing wherein they'll teased a new update, but this is far from finished and years of development is needed before it even arrive in the game. And also, it's kind of funny when Digital Extremes showcase Mesa one-shotting the OIM boss in Duviri Paradox. This was the most realistic thing that they ever did, as most of the Warframes can one-shot bosses in the game with the right setup. However, I just hope that the OIM boss fight will not be something like the Eidolon Hunt wherein only a select Warframe can get the job done. Normally in Warframe, boss fights are decided by a team that finish the mission faster than other setup, and there are those elitist players who just don't want anything to do with players who just want to enjoy the hunt. I despise that the Eidolon Hunt are creating these kind of players, and I hope that the OIM boss will somehow be different and all Warframe can do this boss fight. Well, fingers crossed though, as I don't really expect something to change with the way Digital Extremes handles boss fights. But nonetheless, Duviri Paradox is looking great and I'm very excited now on the final outcome of this update. However, we are not going to talk here about Duviri Paradox. Instead, I would just like to reply to those guys who commented in my previous video about Nizza being the start of good Warframe reworks. Some of you said that Digital Extremes started the good rework with Saryn, the Nuke Queen, the Spore Lady, or whatever you call her right now. While it's true and the rework was actually good for Saryn, I don't think that it was a good rework after seeing what were added in Warframe a couple of months and years later. In fact, I honestly think that the rework of Saryn just nerfed her and dethroned her from being the best nuking Warframe in the game. You wanna know why? Okay, here's what Digital Extremes reworked from Saryn. First of all, they increased Saryn's armor from 175 to 225, at rank 30, and also increased Saryn Prime's armor from 225 to 300, at rank 30. Then, spores now have infinite duration and escalating damage. What exactly does that mean? Essentially, spore duration is determined by the enemies affected. As long as enemies are dying to spores, they will spread. As an added bonus, the longer your spores deal damage, the more your damage output will grow. They also increased status chance from 10% to 50%, also scaling with power strength, and when an enemy affected by spores dies, they spread to surrounding enemies. This makes it much easier to keep spores active. Also, they have changed the way when recasting spores will detonate all active spores and will deal 2x the damage on an infected enemy based on the number of active spores and their current damage per tick. A meter showing damage per tick and the number of affected enemies will be available in the UI to keep tabs on active spores. And then, Venom Dose Augment was changed to spores cast on allies temporarily grant them additional corrosive, was toxin, damage to all attacks. They also added some quality of life improvement to Saryn's other abilities, like, after casting Molt, Saryn receives a momentary speed boost for a short duration. Molt will now scale similar to Rhino's iron skin. All the initial damage it takes in the first 3 seconds will make it stronger. Any damage it receives after that point will target the absorbed health. Damage absorbed will show in a buff indicator in the UI. Once it reaches 0, Molt explodes, dealing toxin damage to nearby enemies. Toxic Clash was also changed. With Toxic Clash active, your weapons will trigger toxin status effect on any damage instance. Increased the duration from 30 seconds to 45 seconds. With the new spreading nature of spores, survivability of Molt, and the increased duration of Toxic Clash and Miasma, Saryn is no longer as energy hungry as she used to be, so we've removed the 2 energy restore on spores burst by Toxic Clash. Contagion Cloud Augment was also changed to kills with Toxic Clash will leave behind a Toxin Cloud. As an added bonus, melee kills double the damage dealt by the cloud. And lastly, Miasma was changed. Miasma's damage type from corrosive to viral. Miasma has a 100% guaranteed viral status effect on damage tick, increased duration from 3 to 5 seconds, and it inflicts double damage on targets affected by spores. Also, when recasting on the same enemy, it will refresh the tick duration and maintain the viral status effect, but will not stun enemies a second time. Honestly, Miasma is a great tool for nuking right now, as the viral procs is insane, knowing how well it goes when paired with setup right now that can strip all the shield and armor of enemies. There are also other things like Necro's Terrify getting a huge buff, and now with the right power strength, you can strip all the armor of enemies. Truly, Miasma is like god tier in terms of nuking enemies right now but I'll be honest with you, I left one detail which will definitely piss you off when you know the fact that Digital Extremes reworked Saryn. Do remember that spores in the past was viral and it was supposed to be a great tool for stripping armor with the change to corrosive, but then, Digital Extremes slap a lot of things into the game that made corrosive damage obsolete. With all the stuff that can strip defenses right now, corrosive is a damage type that has become almost close to being useless. Now, imagine if Digital Extremes did not change spores and it stayed with viral with the new mechanic of the ability now that scales infinitely as long as there are enemies affected. Viral spores Saryn would be super busted right now, and no one can argue that she would be the best nuking queen in the game right now, and I would agree with you guys that Saryn was the first Warframe that Digital Extremes turned into gold. But sadly, they changed it to something weird, and even though Saryn is still queen in Elite Sanctuary Onslaught right now, we must also face the fact that there are other nuking builds that are better than Saryn. If only viral spores was a thing right now, then it would be one of the most overpowered nuking abilities in the game, but it's not, and the nuking of Saryn is way slower compared to those other setup that just can carpet bomb a run instantly. Okay, I would like to know your opinion about this video. Comment your reactions and thoughts below and let's try to discuss. Thank you so much for watching. Squad Leader signing off.